that good enough?
They're going to rip up the driveway.
I kind of want to rip around the parking lot a couple figure eights. No?
What's happening, guys? It's Ken Kaplan from the New England Motorcycle Museum, and today I am on another piece of classic moto history. This is a 750. This was the class of 1982. By that, I mean the best you could possibly get. This won all the shootouts, undisputably the fastest 750 of this genre ever made. This was the last year of the dual reel shock design. From this, they went to the mono shock, kind of a funky looking full body design that kind of took away some of the class cafe design that this bike is the epitome, the pinnacle of this style engine and this style frame for a lot of different reasons. 82 was a transition year. It was the last year of the dual shock, as I mentioned, but also they made a lot of changes to the motor. Prior to this year, to 82, The bike was a little bit over a 12-second quarter mile. They had this thing down to just under 12 seconds in the quarter mile. In fact, Cycle World did a 12.011 on a slippery track out on the West Coast at, I think it was Laguna Raceway. I don't remember. I read about it this morning when I was doing a little research on the history of this bike. Had tons of power, and ironically, this bike was dominating on the racetrack, but it also was an excellent sport touring bike. A bike you could hop on, take it up to Laconia, take it up to Americade, ride it out to Daytona for the Daytona 200. It was great on the highway because it didn't vibrate very much. And it was super comfy with a nice comfy saddle. And this one's been seriously upgraded if you haven't already noticed by looking at it. But back to the engine. The engine is a inline 4-cylinder double overhead cam. In 1982 had the different cam covers. Before that they were chrome. The whole engine's been blacked out on this one. They lightened up the motor quite a bit, and it had a new starter, a much heavier duty starter. It had a different cam. The engine was lighter, faster, more powerful, and it knocked a quarter second off in the quarter mile. So 4-cylinder Mikuni 26mm carburetors. Now this one's going to have an extra 7 to 10 horsepower over stock because it's got the right exhaust on it. It's got a Super Trap 4-in-1 exhaust, and it has the K&N style air filter with a jetting kit, so it's not running lean like they came from the factory. Just a beautiful bike. Let me pull it over here into the exhaust note is just intoxicating. They made a bunch of changes to this bike for 1982. The things that people complained about, nobody really liked the square headlight they had on the previous ones, so they went to the round style headlight. They changed the gauge pod. It has this really cool gauge pod on it with a video quartz clock, which is keeping time, the tachometer, speedometer, fuel gauge, temperature gauge, gear position, high beam. All the idiot lights work great on it. It needs a new speedometer cable. We can either get that for you, or you can do it yourself. But anyways, this bike from the factory had the Kayaba Forks for 1982. They changed the fork design where prior to 1982, it was a leading axle fork, which kind of took away from the look a little bit for me. The inline fork has the anti-dampening control for the brake, as you can see right here. And they went with the triple rate fork spring. So it was the engine was lighter, the forks were lighter, the whole bike was lighter, faster, stronger, better performing motorcycle. The motor itself, back to the motor, it was a plain bearing motor, shared a lot of parts with the GS1100. So it was overbuilt for a 750, dominated on the racetrack, super smooth on the street, and on the twisty back roads, nothing could touch the GS750. So if you're looking for a classic cafe inline 4, there is no better 750 than this particular year, last year of the model, and the end of an era. Tons of tasty upgrades on this bike, starting at the front end with the fork brace on here. It's about $150 fork brace, about $150 steering dampener. It also has the air fork kit, so you can add air to the forks, which will help the triple rate springs with the dampening. We've gone right through the bike, top to bottom. We put way more money into this bike than we probably should have. But it's something that, you know, this is what we call labor of love when you get involved with a bike like this and you just keep going. Starting at the front end, we put brand new Metzler tires on it. It has braided stainless brake lines in the front. The brakes have been rebuilt and serviced, and the master cylinder flushed. We took the forks off and rebuilt the forks with new rubber boots and new fork seals, new oil. Again, triple rate springs with air adapters on the top. Just a better looking bike. And the gas tank in the tailpiece was new for 1982 also. Suzuki put a lot of effort into this bike to maintain their grasp on the hottest 750 of that era. The paint job on it is the factory original, black with a metallic in it, and the orange and red stripe. I think is beautiful. The rims have been painted to match. Some of the things you'd want to upgrade on a bike of this era, the shocks. This has a super high-end set of Fox dual rate air piggyback shocks, which raise the bike up about an inch and give you more ground clearance, better for going through the twisties. Something the 750s were known for was not having a lot of ground clearance. This has been set up with the Fox shocks on the back, the Super Trap exhaust. It has the engine guards. Cosmetically, the entire engine's been painted and blacked out. Again, the rims were painted to match. The fork lowers are painted black. The whole frame's been touched up and repainted as necessary. It has a top-of-the-line Corbin saddle. These were known for having comfy seats from the factory. This one was upgraded with a very expensive top-of-the-line Corbin saddle, which had an orange stripe in the middle here, which was painted black, so it matches a little bit better, in our opinion anyways. Has a new chain on it, new rear tire, and it's been gone through front to back, top to bottom. I'll go over the work order in a minute. But Junior, is there anything you'd like to add about this bike?
No, it's definitely a rider. I think that when you look at the guys who are looking for classic motorcycles to buy as an investment, and also something that's reliable, that is bulletproof with reliable electronics, etc., that's fun to ride, that has power and that handles, they're looking at Japanese air-cooled 4-cylinder super bikes. So these were the bikes that were in development quickly, and there were big changes year to year. But the early kind of boxy style with the cafe rear tail pieces and just the indestructible air-cooled setup, dual overhead cam bikes with the mag wheels and chain drive. That's a big thing. You set them all up, refresh with the brakes done, a tune-up, the intake and exhaust opened up with a performance set of shocks and or the suspension gone through. Then you got something special, guys.
Certainly, the fact that it's an 82, it's what, 38 years old, has the original factory paint on it, which still shines beautifully. Yes, the paint has a little patina. The stickers are a little touch-up has been done on the graphics. There's a little ding in the tank, but the overall shine is fantastic, and it's original. Which to me, you pull up to the candy store over in on the West Coast, or you go to Englishtown Raceway, or down to Daytona, or go to Laconia for Bike Week and pull down the strip. This bike's going to turn heads everywhere you go. It's definitely a conversation piece, and it needs nothing. It's ready to rumble right from Jump Street. So has a new set of grips on it. Levers are in nice shape. Starts up and runs like a brand new motorcycle. It also has an oil cooler with braided stainless line, so engine oil is going to last longer, and it's tuned to perfection. One of the things I forgot to mention, this has a very expensive set of Rask rear sets. These are cafe style rear sets. Those mounted are going to run you at least $500, and it does have the hole in the back here if you wanted to add a passenger peg to ride your girl on the back. That's certainly something you might want to do. I have the work order here, and like I said, I told you we went too far on this bike, clearly. Just adding up the detail shop, top to bottom, everything we painted on this bike. They power washed it, steam cleaned it, the motor, primed the motor and painted the motor, painted the exhaust headers, polished the muffler, painted the crash bars, repainted the frame, the swing arm, and the peg rear sets, stripped and polished the bottom triple clamp brace, polished the wheels, painted the stripe on the back seat. They had 32 hours, that's 4 days. I know for a fact Ronnie had almost 5 days into it, but I got written up at 32. Because I remember at 4 days, he's like, I need another half a day to finish, I need a half a day. So he went to, this is what full rotisserie detail is what I call it, top to bottom, not a single nook and cranny left unturned. So then I went into the service shop. We have a total of 13 hours in the service shop. I know more than that was done because that didn't include the new Metzler tires that were put on the bike. So we rode it up for 45 hours labor, and it's got brand new spark plugs in it, brand new grips, brand new Allen head bolts for the triple clamp, new MGO handlebars. There's a brand new Superbike bars on there and grips. New brake line banjo fittings. We rebuilt the brakes. We replaced the banjo fittings all the way around. New 15-inch stainless steel brake line. New Clearview fuel filter. The gas tank was flushed, cleaned. The petcock was cleaned, as was the fuel filter and fuel line were replaced. Has new fuel line, new vacuum lines on the carburetor. Oil and filter were changed, new oil filter cover O-ring. It has Maxima 1040 engine oil and a brand new 630 chain, as you can see on the back there, to match the brand new top of the line tires that we have on the bike. Can you do a close-up and pick up the nubbies on the front tire? These are the Metzler Laser Techs, super sticky tire. They're not even broken in. They've got maybe 3 miles on them. So about $1,000 worth of parts. We did not put the tires on this work order. They were on a different work order. We only had $419 worth of parts on this one, plus 45 hours labor. So the work order came up to $4,761, plus the tires. The total was $5,261. Now we're not telling you, we're not charging anybody the $5,261. What we're telling you is, if you bought your bike here and rattle off that massive list of stuff, and you want us to get obsessed about your bike and spend a week fixing it, well, 90 bucks an hour plus parts, it adds up pretty quick. Much better off buying one that's done like this. And I think you're going to do it yourself nights and weekends, or have the tools to synchronize the carburetors and adjust the valves and everything else. Good luck. Some of the things that I didn't mention that are on top of the $5,261 worth of value on this bike, you've got a $400 Corbin saddle, you've got a $400 plus Super Trap pipe, you've got the steering dampener at $150, the steering brace at $125, you've got a $750 set of Fox shocks, and of course the K&N filters. So you know, you've got another $2,115 of nice period correct upgrades, plus the air forks. So if you were going to take a stock GS750 that hadn't run in a couple of years and redo it top to back, expect to spend, you know, about $3 grand in parts, and to duplicate this, plus you know, 50 hours of your time. So if you have an extra 50 hours, or just buy this one at a fraction what you could build it for, have a low reasonable reserve. These bikes are a labor of love. For what we paid a lot, I paid a lot of money for this bike when we bought it, way more than I should have, because I knew what it was. I knew this particular year with the box swing arm and all the upgrades and redesigns it had, I knew it was the hottest 750 of this era. Now this is 1982. I was a sophomore in high school. Okay, so this is this bike's 38 years old, and this was the bike that dominated that era, and it's a classic now. So I think I pretty much covered everything. Oh, the compression test on the engine, perfect, 150 PSI across the board. This engine's super healthy. It doesn't backfire, it doesn't burble, it clutches, it shifts. I'm sure by now, Kenny already did a couple of the drive-by videos that we did of it, and the carbs have been cleaned and jetted perfectly and synchronized. Everything's been done on the bike. It's ready to go. The only thing I know, it needs a new speedometer cable, and I think a new fuel gauge. Other than that, she's ready to rumble. Needs nothing. So we got clean title in hand for this bike right here, and the previous owner had owned it for a long time, and he was an old timer, about 70 years old. He had the bike running when we picked it up, but it needed a lot of cleaning up and all the other services I mentioned we did. But he obviously loved the bike and took good care of it over the years. And the bike's never been dropped. You know, that we can, there's no indication it's been crashed or anything like that. It's just a beautiful classic cafe racer. So good luck bidding on it. If you have any questions about the bike, give us a call, 860-454-7024. Junior, if you want to wrap it up, talk about shipping, anything like that, I'm going to put my helmet on. We're going to do a couple of hot laps on it.
Yeah, ship it anywhere in the States inexpensively. So message your zip code for a quote or call us on the shop line with any questions, 860-454-7024.
You know, when I'm put the helmet on, it's about to get serious. There's something about the profile of an inline four with the dual shocks. You just don't get that on the early monoshock bikes, and the values reflect that. The early monoshock bikes don't seem to be much of a demand for those. The Eddie Lawson replicas, the GS1000Ss, the bikes that were dominating the street like this 750, this is what's hot right now. And with the Fox shocks and the rear sets and the original factory paint complemented by the orange accents, this bike's a winner, folks. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's badass. Buy this bike and ride off into the sunset.